So I'm going to talk a little bit about a concept called reference data upload, but more importantly, it's about the new data model and the new way that they've revamped what's underneath analytics, and what does it mean for the future, and where some of these are going. And for some of the stuff at the end, you know, I certainly don't work for Google, so I'm speculating, and you'll hear what my opinion is. But Google didn't go beyond that. So reference data upload, this one, it's an interesting one because what it lets you do is, in a way, you have kind of a mini light data warehouse inside Google Analytics. What it lets you do is, say I'm a bookseller and I sell books, and I've got the ISBN number somewhere in my web page or inside Google. I can then pull out other data sets that then let me do reports in Google Analytics that look at author name or publication date or other things. And so this gives an interesting possibility that then you can have your a consistency across all of your data and understanding what in terms of your reference, in terms of your segmentation, in terms of things like that. But in the end, the most important new thing is the underlying data model and the changes that are happening in that model. The initial Google Analytics was, of course, based on Urchin, which, of course, was based on websites and is all about visitors coming to a website and investigating a website and looking at pages and things like that. The new model is still about users or entities and events, but they have clearly made it much, much more flexible for the world of today, where I will have a tiny computer in my pocket and I walk around everywhere, and there are near-field devices, and there are all sorts of things happening out in the real world. They've added something called the measurement protocol, which is, of course, yet another API, which just means that now anybody anywhere can write code, which will then inject information directly into Google. So what it does is, you don't have to be on a website anymore. You could be anywhere. It's your point of sale terminal in your store. It's at the shopping mall. I've got my phone. I scan some things. I beep something with my near field. I do something. I pick up a coupon in the store. I come back and I use it on the website. I go get a coupon from the website. I use it in the store. The idea is that you can create sessions and understanding of how people are using your product and your services beyond the website and across and into the real world, which is interesting in itself. And obviously there are all sorts of privacy and how do we actually do this and what do we give people to make them want to do it. But the reality is, a lot of the time, all you really need to do is be logged in. And if you think about the things you use today, how many things do you use on the web where you like logging in because it makes sense? Does anyone use Facebook without logging in? No, you have to log in. It's all part of it. You feel good about it. Well, you don't make you feel good about it because Facebook is always working hard to make you not feel good about it. But fundamentally, you still use it. You've identified yourself. You are getting something in return. And this is where this new great world of analytics is going to go. So what's next after that? Fine. We're all numbers. We're all being tracked. We're doing it. We're opting into it. You asked me. I said, well, what's in it for me? I said, oh, well, every time you go in the store, I'm going to tell you all the new deals. You're going to get coupons. Okay, fair enough. You can have some of my privacy. What's next? And what's interesting, and this is where none of this has been announced, and I'm just making it up. In my previous life, I was, and still am an engineer, but I was an engineer building cement plants, automation systems for cement plants. And one of the things I had to do in the cement plant was track everything. You needed to know where the trucks came in. When you had a truck come in, you wanted to know when did it pass the gate, how long was it in line, how long did it take to load it, how long did it take to wait. Did it go and wash itself or not? Because we like it when they wash because it's cleaner. People give us better brand. When they tear it out, how long did that take? And then when they left, well, with what Google's doing, what could an event be? An event could be anything. Google is building a massive event engine that is capable of tracking pretty much everything. And it doesn't have to be just people. And if you look at manufacturing, if you look at logistics, if you look at any other aspect of the real world, it is completely possible that there may be all sorts of interesting applications that leave us far, far past a mere page view, and certainly far past a hit. When you look at huge Google infrastructure, when you look at the rapid growth of digital sources everywhere, when you look at the kinds of APIs that they are building, the ecosystem and the maturing tools, it's an extremely exciting time for analytics. And I'll leave you with one thought, which is kind of an echo. I think Jim, you very much touched on this. data is more valuable when you put it together. If you have data sets that you use that are isolated and lonely, and you've never met each other, you need to find a way to get them all in the same room and dive in and figure out what you can learn. Thank you.
Can I take two questions? Any other questions? Yes, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if somebody has some very sensitive data and they want to make use of the Google Analytics API for their particular business, but they don't want everybody else to know their business, is there any kind of support? What kind of ideas do you have in that?
Well,
as an answer to that?
That's always been a concern, and in fact, it's a reason that some companies don't use Google Analytics because they don't want. And in some cases, I mean, if you're Amazon, you probably don't want Google to know everybody's traffic on your website. Now, Google does, of course, protect your data from others, but Google is also very smart to know that if you give them data, they want to be able to use it and look at it. So there's a number of layers. There's a question of, is it secure? Is it safe? And do I actually want Google to know within the license? And so the answer is that with all cloud things, you need to assess that on a case-by-case basis. I don't know whether Google will provide a way that you can keep it in your locked data center, but it's
so you could in a sense code what information you provide to Google internally in your own company.
Yeah, you could encrypt it. You could encrypt it and then pull it out. Yes, I suppose so. Yes. Yeah. In fact, Google has their policy now, their terms of service in terms of person identifiable information is that you can't store any information that Google can connect to a person in Google. You can store codes that only you know, and then link it up with personal data that you store in your systems. But Google is very clear that they don't want to store people's personal information in the system. So there are a lot of layers of privacy around security that are involved.
And one more, last one at the back.
What about what Facebook did yesterday? How is it different than Google Analytics, and why is it so much more controversial?
You know what? You'll have to tell me what Facebook did yesterday.
They're doing searches for social media, so that they're getting all the analytics on social media. It was helped the news yesterday.
Right, and farming some of it up too big or something. Yeah.
Social graph analysis.
Social, yeah. I mean, the bottom line is, in the end, it's you need to be open to what you do. So they may have the right to do that based on their policies. The other thing is, I think that people aren't, and this is just my opinion, aren't always really. They might be aware, but they're not really intellectually. They haven't quite understood that the internet is a public place. You know, that people will post something on the internet. They would never write on a piece of paper and put on a post in their neighborhood. And yet, it's, you know, intellectually, it's not sure that there's such a distance. So I mean, I think it's very complicated, and I'm certainly don't have the expertise to dive into all of that. But I think that clearly, all of this data and the fact that it's tracking all of us, it's always going to be a very big topic, and it have to get sorted out. I think that the only experience that I've seen is that generally you don't want to leave your government to sort it all out by themselves. And so I would encourage everybody to be involved in, you know, how we sort it out as a society.
All right. Thank you very much. Information on metrics. I don't know what it is, ladies and gentlemen. That was great. So we're just gonna have a few things we need to get done here. So anybody who didn't hand in their business card when they walked in, can you raise yes and pause? Anyone? Anyone who handed in their business card?
Max, the other one.
Just another one there? Can you bring that up?
No, this is, I don't know which. What time
this
you
here
have?
Okay. All right. You have some forms in front of you. If you can fill that out, please. Feedback forms. Take a few minutes to do that. If you don't have any, we have some at the front here. Does anybody have one? Do I need one? Anyone has one? Okay. Take 2 minutes to do that. So we'll bring up the speakers. Yeah. I'll speak to comment on it. Okay.